Muted.
So welcome to the College Goal Washington Site Coordinator Training. My name is Christina Winstead. This is our, oh, what happened here? My name is Christina Winstead. This is our overview of what we're going to be doing today. So we will be, by the end of the training, you'll understand how to get started as a College Goal Washington site. You'll be able to prepare for your event and plan for it. You'll be able to develop a support team and be able to procure event day volunteers. You'll have information and know how to coordinate your event day, and then the responsibilities for wrapping up and your reporting back to us. So the 12-year campaign, it consists of 3 different components. College application campaign, which we will have our site lead training later today, College Goal Washington, and the FAFSA completion initiative. Combined together, these 3 components really are to work towards helping students with those critical components their senior year of applying to college. We'd like to apply 3 colleges, actually, to reach a target of safety, applying for financial aid, scholarships, WASFA, FAFSA, and opportunities there. And then the FAFSA completion initiative is a way for you to be able to assess how your students are doing with the FAFSA by looking at student-specific data through the FAFSA initiative portal. And that will give you access to see if they completed their FAFSA, if they have completed it with errors, or if they haven't completed it at all. There have been some changes to the FAFSA, as you've heard very recently or probably over the summer. And so our timeline has changed for College Goal Washington. College Goal Washington used to run in January because that's when the FAFSA was released. But the new release date for the FAFSA and WASFA is October 1st, so it's right there upon us. And so we have adjusted our campaign to reflect those dates. So the College Goal Washington campaign will take place between October and November, but we're happy to support events that go beyond that. So if you're going to be doing events in December, in January, we're also happy to support those events too. So College Goal Washington is part of a national effort, which is administered through us. It's through the Washington Student Achievement Council. Right now, I just pulled our numbers. This is why this initiative is so important. Is last year, as of this morning, last year, 49% of seniors completed the FAFSA. So we had 51% of students who did not apply for financial aid. And we know this is a critical indicator of post-secondary achievement is to be able to start that process. So we want to make sure that we are helping students with the FAFSA and WASFA applications through these events. So a little background. Washington Student Achievement Council is the agency with the FAFSA data for financial aid purposes. The FAFSA completion initiative matches FAFSA completion data with senior class rosters. And so you can be able to see aggregate data as well, where you're going to be able to see how many seniors are at high schools this year, as well as how many have completed by district and also by high school, even if you don't have access to student-specific data. Data is viewable via an online portal. If you would like access to a portal, please email me after this training, and I'm happy to connect you to the data receiver in your district to be able to get you that access. Districts have to sign a user portal agreement. That user portal agreement, right now we have 90% of them back, but I do have some districts that have not signed them. So if you're in a district that has not signed a user agreement, please let me know. We can see what we can do to start that process. So I have a couple districts that are currently in that process, but I'd be happy to get your district started as well. During the FAFSA campaign, starting October, we'll be sending out FAFSA completion maps by ESD monthly, so you can see how your effort is going, not just with your school, but with the entire ESD. This is a great way to leverage more assistance, as well as really to showcase the work that you're doing. So this year we have 4 main goals for College Goal Washington. We want to increase the number of students, especially those from underrepresented populations. We want to be able to help them complete the WASFA and FAFSA statewide. We want to ensure that college-bound scholars apply for financial aid for FAFSA or WASFA as soon after October 1st. and they want to be mindful of and follow their college guidance for the colleges they're applying to for financial aid deadlines. We really want to give them that chance, but there used to be a deadline for the college-bound students to complete their financial aid. That is no longer something that they're going to have to do. They need to complete it as soon after October 1st, and then make sure they're following the guidances of the colleges they're attending. We want to make sure we're providing information for students on the entire financial aid process, so not just the FAFSA and WAFSA, but we also want to work with students on applying for scholarships, which is a great way to get money for school. So we have more information. Because the timeline has moved up a little bit, this is going to give us a greater opportunity to work with students after October to be able to work with them on scholarships. Deadlines for the college's financial aid applications will be listed on Ready, Set, Grad. So they'll have a list of all the colleges and their deadlines for financial aid in Washington State. So that'll help you guys get your students all on the same page of when their deadlines are, so they have reasonable expectations of what they're responsible for. And so with the financial aid processes, we are going to have some webinars to help you work with your students on understanding how to look at award letters and compare them. We will have some information on how to apply for scholarships. We really want to continue engaging students. While we want to have a great event that you'll help students apply for financial aid in WAFSA and the FAFSA, we want to make sure that these events are continuing, or these activities and engagements are continuing beyond your initial event to be able to catch all the students and give them really options for all their opportunities for paying for college. And we want to provide support for students who are filing for the WAFSA, so the Washington Application for State Financial Aid. So College Go Washington will continue to provide support for WAFSA applicants. In 2014, students who met residency requirements established in House Bill 1079 could file for the WAFSA, the Washington Application for Student Financial Aid, and receive the State Need Grant. So these students can receive State Need Grant. As of 2015, State Need Grant and college-bound scholarships are available to students who have DACA status. College Go Washington will support both FAFSA and WAFSA applications. So really, how this works is because we are working together. So we have a lot of partners. It's not just the Student Achievement Council here, but we're working with the National College Access Network. Washington State Employee Credit Union has generously donated money so that we can provide sites with printed materials. We're really fortunate that they're a partner of ours. We have Roadmap Project, PSESD, who's been doing amazing trainings this last couple weeks. Washington College Access Network and the College Success Foundation is a wonderful help for volunteering at events. Futures Northwest has put together a giant list of events that are going on in the Bellingham area, including they're going to be doing financial aid information at farmers markets. They're really thinking outside the box, which is great. And then, of course, the Washington Association for Financial Aid Administration, that's going to be WAFA. And they've been great with supporting us and volunteers. Our site coordinators, you guys really make this happen. And then the volunteers from colleges. We have volunteers this year coming from universities. Gonzaga is going to have some of their student body actually help out at events. So we're really excited. All of our partners really are what make this work. And it's so wonderful to see everyone working towards this really important task to help students have equal opportunity in applying for financial aid and for admissions. So I'm just so grateful for our partners, and I just can't thank you guys enough, so thank you. So we're going to talk about getting started. I know this is going to be a lot of information, but if you at any point in this process of getting started are feeling stuck, please feel free to contact me so we can kind of work through and see if there's anything we can do to help. As a site coordinator, you're going to lead the College Go Washington event in your community, so at your school. You'll manage your event planning and logistics, so you're going to want to reserve your computer labs and pick your dates and times. Be mindful when you're picking your dates of activities that are going on campus. So, you know, maybe having homecoming and a FAFSA night on the same night are probably not going to be the best fit. But you know, there's going to be other dates too that you want to be mindful of, election day, things like that. But picking out your dates. You're going to want to implement local marketing and promotion. We have materials to send you that you can market your event at your school. I've also had other sites that are marketing their local events within their community by asking different grocery stores, things like that, to put up their posters in their stores, as well as put the postcards that we send out in public spaces, your libraries. Think of all those areas where you need to catch students to be able to come to these events. You're going to start recruiting your event day volunteers. So this is just going to be connecting with your local colleges typically. They love to come out and work with your students because eventually your students may become their students. And so it's a great way to get them connected to their colleges early on. If you are struggling in recruiting volunteers, please feel free to contact me. I have some volunteers that are signing up online who will assist in local communities, but I got to connect them to your sites. But if you're struggling, please let me know. You're going to oversee the event, so you're going to make sure the event runs and runs well. You're going to administer College Goal Washington evaluations for volunteers and for the students. So this is a really critical piece because we need to know how these events are going so we can adapt and make sure that we're providing the best events possible and the best materials possible. So, and also when the volunteers, when they complete the assessments, then we can make sure that we're training them properly, that they have all the information they need so they feel comfortable working with students. And then if you have 10 or more students complete the survey, we will send you a school-specific report with that data. And that's a great piece to have. And that data can tell you, and not just you, but your administrators, you know, the needs of your school and how beneficial this event was. You're going to complete and submit your final site packet and send it to me. That's going to include your sign-in sheets and your evaluations if you choose to do them on paper, but we're going to have them online. But I know some sites want paper ones. So if you do online ones, you won't have to send me the surveys, but if you do paper ones, please definitely send them to me. So your resources. There are so many resources. I encourage you to utilize these resources. I know a lot of people are trying to create their own materials, and we already have so many materials available to you that you might be recreating something that already exists. So we want to make sure that we're, giving you these tools so you don't have to use that time creating them. You can use that time with your students. So if you are trying to get your students to volunteer, like I know that some sites are going to have their juniors volunteer as check-in people. Please make sure all your volunteers are registering through volunteer registration. The reason for that is twofold. One, we want to know who volunteered because I want to be able to thank them. So I want to be able to send them out some sort of recognition for the work that they did as a volunteer. But also I want to make sure that if next year they want to volunteer, that we have their name listed. And so especially if they were at your site last year, then we can reconnect them back to your site. The Student Federal Aid website is amazing. It has so many resources. There are infographics, videos, stuff in English and Spanish, and I can't believe how many materials are on there. They have infographics on how to determine who your parent is during the FAFSA. All these really hard to answer questions where you can walk a student through it. And so those are available on Ready, Set, Grad as well. I've linked them to there too. They're also in your Site Lead Toolkit and Resource Guide. So I encourage you to look at their website. FSA Pubs, you can order some documents through them, different materials. It takes a little longer to get some of those materials. Sometimes it costs money to get those materials. Sometimes they're free. It depends on, a lot of them are digital now, I've noticed. So you'll have a lot of digital options as well, which is great because you can attach those right into an email and send it to students. Our WAFSA website. So if you have a student that's not sure if they qualify for the WAFSA or the FAFSA, there can be only one. And so they can only pick one application. I've had students tell me, well, I want to double down. It doesn't work like that. They pick one. And so when they pick one and they're not sure, they can go ahead and go to the WAFSA website, and there's an assessment tool where they'll answer a couple questions, and when they answer those questions, it'll determine whether they need to complete the FAFSA or the WAFSA. And then for your site lead information, right on Ready, Set, Grad, there's a list of all the other tools. I mean, it's quite an amazing list of resources. We also have trainings available, so if you want to know more about what seniors are going to be going through this year, we have a senior cycle webinar where they're going to learn all about the entire senior year and all the things that are going to be going on this year. That's going to be from 1 to 2 on the 13th. and it's going to be right online, same with GoToMeeting, just what we're doing right here. We'll also have a FAFSA-WASFA volunteer training webinar, and that's going to be on the 14th from 1 to 2:30. Both of these are going to be recorded and put up online within a couple days after the webinar, so if you can't make it, totally fine. You can just watch these from home, pop up some popcorn, and learn about the FAFSA and WASFA. Pretty easy. The WASFA FAFSA volunteer training, this is good for anyone who wants to know more about the FAFSA and WASFA. This is going to have some higher level information in it as well, but it's going to be a great tool. If you know anyone at your school that wants to know more about this, I encourage to have them watch this. Okay, so event planning and preparation. So this is the big stuff. Now I know that we're on a revised timeline this year. I'm always going to do this, like, just so you know, we understand you're on a revised timeline. We know that there's been less time to plan and prepare for these events. Next year, sites will be signing up much earlier so that you're going to start this process typically around May, and you'll most likely have your events booked before you leave for summer break. So a lot of this is going to move up next year, even more so than it did this year, just so you have more time to prepare. But I know a lot of sites are feeling that crunch, and I completely understand that, and I'm here to support you. So you have a couple different options for your event. If you don't know what kind of event to do, you have 3 great options, but also you have the ability to choose whatever type of event that best fits you and your students. So even if any of these event models don't work for you, you know what works best for you and your students, and I encourage you to adapt these to what you and your students need. So Model 1 provides FAFSA filing and support. It's the most basic of the events in the way that it's going to be really tailored to applying for your FAFSA and having someone there to support you with those questions that you have during the FAFSA application. Really, we want our attendees to be able to submit initial FAFSA or WAFSA before leaving and having their questions answered, or being able to answer questions on a previously submitted FAFSA. These events work really well where space is limited because it focuses on one-on-one. It's not going to be really is focused on having a giant computer lab. It's going to be more for smaller schools, focusing on one-on-one help. We encourage you, if you're going to use a room with at least 20 to 25 computers, depending on the size of your class, because you may have, if your event is a regionally marketed event, you might have students not from your school attending. You might have students from other schools who couldn't make their FAFSA night, so they might, local high school students might be coming to your event. We want to make sure that your target audience, your target audience is going to be your high school seniors, but you may also have, and I noticed at other events, parents that are also filing for FAFSA and WAFSA at the same time, and so we encourage you to also support the parents and the students at the same time when they're doing the FAFSA. You might also have multiple students coming in, including students who've already applied for FAFSA and maybe their sibling is a senior and they're already in college. I'd encourage you to support all the entire family as they're applying for the FAFSA. Model 2, the FAFSA-WAFSA filing assistance along with workshops so participants can better understand financial aid. So this is going to be not just support, but helping them understand the process and what to expect. Topics can include understanding financial aid, the award process, how to pay for college, scholarships, college bound. Target audiences in this event would include seniors, current college students, high school juniors. I encourage you to have them attend the workshops at a minimum, maybe even start thinking about completing their FSAID. In addition to financial aid experts and application helpers, you'll also want to recruit presenters for this event. So if you're going to want presentations, it's definitely, you want to start recruiting those presenters now. Model 3 is the most extensive model. The event offers workshops, activities that share information about college planning and process, college applications, scholarship searching, college bound, FAFSA forecaster, and other topics. This model is more like a college fair, and so I noticed that there's quite a few schools that are going to go to this model and have it be their College Go Washington and their college application campaign event. So in the daytime, they're doing a college fair, you're having students go visit the colleges, then go into a computer lab to start their college applications, and then in the evening, the parents and the students come back and complete that FAFSA or WAFSA together. Some of these can be very large events and regional events. So for these events, we want to make sure that you have enough volunteers and that you have enough space to be able to provide those workshops. So your guiding questions when you're trying to figure out what kind of event to do. You're going to want to think about how many students do you expect to have at your event? And then how many volunteers, based upon that number, are you going to need to help? How big is your venue? What resources are available? Who are you targeting? Are you targeting just your seniors? Are you targeting your seniors and juniors? Are you going to do an event that includes the whole high school where you're going to do a curriculum based upon freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors so that they can understand the process? And then what resources can you offer at your event? This is just a sample agenda so you can see kind of what to expect. Setting your event day agenda, it becomes easier after you choose your model. So right now it may be like, wait, how do I do this? But once you choose your model, it's a lot easier. Agenda outlines what you're going to be offering all attendees. It helps them navigate your event. If you're offering Model 1, you may not even need an agenda. It just might be welcome to FAFSA night. If you are doing Models 2 and 3, you're going to want to make sure you have copies of your agenda at the registration desk when people sign in so they can decide what sessions they're going to go to or what activities they're going to participate in. There's a sample day agenda in the resource guide that you can just cut and paste your stuff into. So it's a lot easier just to have those tools in the resource guide that you can cut and paste your school logo into, as well as the information about your event. Okay, so the timeline is a little crunched this year. Like I said, next year it's going to be a little more spread out. So while right now it's saying 1 month prior to an event, next year this will probably be spread over 2 months. Your site lead agreements were sent out via email, and thank you so much. I've already gotten 8 of them back. I really appreciate it, you guys. 2 months prior to the event, you're going to, really that's when you signed up for the event. You have signed up at the 12th Year Campaign site, and you start thinking about how you're going to utilize this to assist your students. A month prior to your event, you're going to sign your site agreements. You're going to start putting your event details together, and you're going to build your support team, and you're going to reserve your rooms. That's a big one. I've had several sites that forgot to reserve their rooms or thought they had reserved rooms, and then when they went to go set up their event, it wasn't ready to go. So reserving your rooms is a big one, especially if you're doing something off-site at another institution, is to make sure you verify that your room is reserved. You're going to place your order for your materials online. I think about 75 of you guys have already done that. The materials are currently, we're just waiting on our workbooks, which are being printed, and they will actually ship on, everything will ship on Wednesday. Some sites have already received some materials. These materials are free, so you don't have to pay for them. I know that everything is expensive usually, and there's a catch. There's no catch to these materials. We want you to be able to promote your event, and that students have all the information they need to complete these critical tasks. We have postcards that you can give to students that tell them what to bring to the FAFSA event. Those postcards are in English, Spanish, Russian, Vietnamese, and Somali. We also have posters in Spanish and English to promote your event. We have stickers for you to give out to your students after the event that says, I applied, or 12th Year Campaign. And then we have a student workbook, which last year it only covered the college application campaign, but this year it's a workbook for both college admissions and financial aid processes. And so those workbooks, the only thing with the workbooks is you need to be signed up for both the college application campaign and College Go Washington for us to send you printed books. So you have to go to what's called a Rainier site. But if you are wanting copies of the books, I've already sent out digital copies, and a lot of sites are already adapting those for students to be able to complete online. It's a great way for students to track what they've completed in the application process and that they've also completed their financial aid, as well as it has a worksheet on how to do their FSA ID. So please order those materials as soon as possible. I want to make sure you guys get them. The materials, after next week, the material orders that come in, it'll take about 3 weeks to get the materials to you. So just as a heads up, we can try to get stuff out sooner. Let me know if your dates are coming up so that I can try to get those materials out to you as quick as possible. And then also, you really want to start thinking about issuing press releases to your local newspaper. We've had some great innovative ways that people have marketed their events. I just went to an event at Aberdeen where they had the mayor come and welcome all the students and the parents to an event. I mean, it's really, get out there and see who your stakeholders are. But I encourage you at least do some press releases. And there's a press release template in your toolkit. So all you have to do is cut and paste your information in there. And it talks about the national campaign. And then you can put your information about your event in there. And so it's a really great tool. 3 weeks prior to your event, you're going to build your agenda. You're going to do this training, so you're doing it right now. And then you are going to start really promoting your event with those posters, postcards, and we'll make sure that you have your sign-in forms as well. And then 2 weeks prior to your event, you're going to finalize that agenda. You're going to start making sure that you have your surveys. So if you're going to do online surveys, I encourage you to have them already pulled up on the computer underneath the FAFSA or WAFSA page so that when they close out the FAFSA or WAFSA, they see the survey there. And then you're also going to have your volunteer training. Okay, so 1 to 2 weeks prior to the event, this is when you're going to have your support team check-in. Make sure that everyone knows what they're doing, especially with their roles as volunteers. IT staff check-in. This is a critical piece. There are so many different restraints when it comes to firewalls on your computers at the school. I encourage you, you're going to want to make sure that students can access the FAFSA page, the WAFSA page, their email accounts, so all the different email accounts, not just their school email account, because we're going to encourage them when they complete the FAFSA to use a non-school email because they may not have access to that email after they graduate. So Hotmail, Yahoo, Gmail, all those need to be unblocked. As well as I encourage you to have the FSA ID page, make sure that they can access that as well. I encourage you to do 2 different things with that. Have your staff, IT staff, in this check-in so you can make a list of the pages that need to be unblocked. Then a week before your event, go and make sure that they actually can access them on the computer, and then 2 hours before your event, check again. Just because it's so hard when you have those blocked and your event is in the evening and you can't get IT staff to come back to be able to unblock those for you. If at all possible, if this works for you guys, because I know that some people have dual roles, if your IT staff member could attend as a volunteer, that would be amazing, and it will really give you some assistance there. You're going to print all your additional forms as needed. Start assembling those event day materials, your agendas, your maps if needed, or parking where people can park, surveys, and then your volunteer information. And then your financial aid, if you have informational pages you're going to be giving out, or if you're going to be giving out your workbooks that day, have those ready too. You're going to assemble your volunteer materials. If you want to make them name tags, that would be wonderful. We will be giving buttons out to each site for the volunteers to wear. They're giant, they are orange, and they say College School Washington Volunteer. Very hard to miss. So those will go out to each site. And then gather other supplies as needed. Pencils are a great one because people forget to bring those. The FSA ID worksheets, I encourage pencils because if someone writes something down wrong, they're going to scribble it, and they're writing down passwords and stuff like that. So I encourage pencils if possible. Also, if you're using your computer lab, maybe making some signage about food or drink restrictions. I've also seen that happen where, like, there goes a mocha on the keyboard, we're never going to use this computer lab again. So I encourage you to make sure that everyone knows what the rules and the norms of that space are. So now we're going to talk about support team and your event day volunteers. There's a wide variety when you're building your support team. They can help you pull off a successful college goal event. When planning your event, it may be helpful to have input from others who work with your target population. Examples of people maybe from your team include your high school staff, TRIO or Gear Up staff, college staff, likely admissions and financial aid counselors, College Success Foundation sometimes if you're working with them, other students, and then local college students. It's great. Everyone I've noticed has had wonderful volunteers, and they're getting them all from different areas. So it's not just one pool of volunteers. I've had PTOs that volunteer. So it's really thinking about who are those stakeholders and who can you leverage for assistance. So the thing with the volunteers too is not all of them have to be financial aid specialists because there's multiple roles for this event. So you can have people who are checking in people at the table. You can have someone who's going to be your runner so you don't have to run and get copies of something. You know, someone who can go do the running for you. And then you'll also have professionals within financial aid or admissions. On page 13 of your site lead guide, there is a support team audit, a resource audit to help you identify your partners, and that'll assist you with implementing your event. So support team tasks, they can, we have volunteer and recruitment for presenters. We have marketing and outreach, and then fundraising. So there's 3 different ways that you can really split up your support team to get these tasks done. Recruiting event day volunteers and presenters, a volunteer manager. If you have enough staffing, a volunteer manager is wonderful to have, and they can relay information to all the volunteers. They can set up your trainings and then make sure that your volunteers know what their roles are. Marketing and outreach activities such as getting materials out into the community, creating customization of our materials with your events, ensuring that your event is promoted at your school. Some schools have taken the home screen of their computers and put their event on there. Schools will put it into their announcements. We have posters that you can put up at your schools. Sometimes it's great to have students be able to go out into the community to see where else they can have those posters placed in an appropriate way. And then fundraising. This is not a requirement for sites, but this is a nice piece for sites. If you're going to be doing drawings for giveaways, you'll want to approach your local community groups and businesses to sponsor. In the past, we've offered food for event day volunteers, and unfortunately, the Sicilian in me, it kills me to say this, but we cannot provide food. So I would encourage you to approach your local grocery stores, pizza parlors, see if they'll donate snacks to this event. I've been to several events where Costco has been wonderful and has donated more pizza than, well, they're teenagers, so they'll eat all of it. But for fundraising, another piece is that you might not be able to fundraise yourself, and so that's why I encourage you to really get your PTOs involved in that process. So recruiting your volunteers, you're going to identify your contacts through your support team resource audit, or some of you guys already know who your volunteers are because you've already done this event. So I encourage you, if you've already had your volunteers set up and you're doing your 12-year campaign event, you've already done one of these, reach out to a site who hasn't to make sure, see if they need any assistance. I have several school districts that are working together to plan their events so that they can leverage all their staffing. You're going to want to always mention that you need volunteers in your communications. I have a lot of parents that also want to volunteer for these events because they want to understand the financial aid process while their student is doing the process. Collect volunteer information, have them all register through the survey gizmo, and then follow up with your volunteers 1 to 2 weeks prior to your event to make sure everyone's good to go, to make sure they've been trained, and to make sure that they can still attend. I encourage you to have your volunteers attend the event early. So don't tell your volunteers to show up when the event starts. I'd encourage to have them show up about an hour early to make sure everything is set up, but also that way if someone can't make it, that you can find coverage. So event day volunteers can be registration support, site greeters, and guides. This is great for juniors to get involved in this process because they're going to be doing it next year, to have them help people get to the right rooms, to greet the families that are coming in. A FAFSA or WAFSA helper. This is going to be someone specifically who is able to give one-on-one assistance. This requires basic knowledge of online FAFSA and WAFSA filing, and including some frequently asked questions. So this is going to be someone who's not specifically a financial aid expert, but they have gone through the training, they understand the frequently asked questions, but most importantly, they understand when to say, unfortunately, I don't have that answer, let's get the financial aid expert over here to give it to you. So someone who's going to understand the limitations. We encourage to have one advisor, one FAFSA, WAFSA helper per 8 students in your lab, if possible. And then if you're going to have workshops, you're going to want to get your workshop presenters, and so you can connect with your community colleges, with your universities, and your college access networks. A lot of them are very happy to give presentations. Tech support. This is where that IT person, if you can get them to be on call at least, but if they can come to the event, that would be wonderful as well. Having a place to reach them at in an emergency is great. So I've been to FAFSA events before where we've been completely locked out of the computers, tried to do a FAFSA on the phone, and it just ended up being a hard event for everybody. So having those unlocked is really critical. And then your financial aid expert. Your financial aid expert is going to be able to answer those tough financial aid questions. Ideally, this person is going to come from a college or university office. We want to make sure we know that time is busy for the college offices, but this is really a critical role to have someone who can answer those difficult questions, those really in-depth questions, as well as a dreamer advisor. So someone who can assist dreamers with their WASFA questions and general information about the FAFSA or the WASFA process. It's not required, but I highly encourage you request this when you're contacting your universities. Volunteers should do a number of things. The first thing I recommend, of course, is signing up online. We've changed it from a Google form to the survey gizmo because it's a lot easier to access the list. Make sure you contact your volunteers with an event day agenda, so if you can give that to them when you complete that so they have expectations of your time, and confirm the location and time of your event. If you can, have a pre-volunteer meeting. They can participate in our training, the WASFA FAFSA training on the 14th, or when it goes online, they can watch it in the comfort of their own home at any time they want. And then make sure they have them wear their volunteer buttons, or at least make sure that they're identifiable. So if you, some sites actually had shirts made for their volunteers, and they were bright orange. I mean, they were safety orange. But, man, if anyone needed help, they knew exactly to go to. So when you're managing your volunteers, here's some tips. First is communication. Send out the initial welcome and a second email reminding them to let them know about the events of the day. Hold your pre-meeting. I recommend having all the volunteers show up 30 to 60 minutes prior to your event. At this meeting, thank your volunteers. Have your students write thank you cards. So maybe this is something you can have your students do in class where they write thank you cards to these volunteers. We will also be thanking your volunteers, anyone who's listed in our SurveyMonkey, we will be sending thank you cards to. But it's great to have nothing better than having a card sent by students. They love it, and I feel like thank you cards are almost this lost art now, so I feel like having students do them is a great way to show gratitude. Other things to let your volunteers to know. You're going to want to make sure they know where critical things in the building are. So where is the event going on? Where are the restrooms? What do they need access to? Where's the registration table? Things like that. Make sure all of your volunteers sign in and record the time that they were there. So we want to see how many hours we have of volunteers assisting. Make sure that if you have a larger campus that you have maybe someone with maps to guide people to the event, but make sure all of your volunteers have a map so they understand the campus as well. If you have the ability to provide refreshments, please do so. If not, maybe getting a case of bottled water at least would be good. And make sure to thank your volunteers when they leave. Follow up with your volunteers. And then when we send that report out to you with the, if you have 10 or more students complete the survey, you may want to share that with some of your volunteers as well so they can see the work that they did. Okay, donations. So asking for donations, you have, again, it's not required, but you want to make sure that when you're making this ask, that everything is legal. So some schools cannot ask for donations, some sites can't ask for donations, and if that's the case, maybe see if your PTO, which sometimes are 501c3s, can make those asks for you. Identify what you need. So put together a list of your needs. We have a template in your toolkit for a request for donations. So you can use that letter and adapt it to your needs. If you can request in person or send a student to request in person if you have your student leadership. Offer to credit the business at the event. Maybe you can put their logo on your agenda or recognize them for supporting you. Be flexible. So you may ask for a dozen pizzas, but they may say, hey, we can give you some 2 liters of soda. It may not always be what you wanted when you request, but they may be able to offer you something. Also, some some places they can only give so many donations per year, and they do an allotment at the beginning of the year. So maybe they'll put a request in. They may say this year, I'm sorry, we've already done all of our requests for the year, but we'll put you on for next year. So I've had sites that one year they get a donation of a gift card that they can raffle off, and the next year they know that they're going to have to wait 2 years to get another one. And then follow up with your donors and make sure that they're thanked. If you have donors that you want us to thank as well, I'm happy to send thank you cards from Wasatch for your donors too. Just let me know who your donor was and their address, and I'd like to make sure we thank them as well for supporting our activities in our communities. Okay, marketing and outreach of the event. So we want to start with the question, where do students go? I know most of it's online, so that's part of it. But where are your students? Are they at the library? Are they, I don't know. I'm too old to know where students are now. But track them down and put up posters in those areas. We have an outreach audit on page 23 of your workbook, of your toolkit, so you can assess kind of where you need to put posters, how much materials you need. Connect with your local media. Make sure that they know the good work you're doing in your community and the goals that you have for your students and why it's so critical. And there's a template in page 43 to help you with that and why these tasks are beneficial to the entire community. A couple things, reporters are going to need lead time. Some of your newspapers have an education-specific reporter. That's the person you're going to want to contact. So depending on your newspaper, there will be specific people you need to contact. You'll want to make sure that you have a couple attendees they might want to interview, so maybe pulling a couple attendees to be able to give statements. And then if you're going to use photos, make sure you use release forms as needed. And then we ground it to our in-state and national program. So if they need more information about the state or national program of College Bowl Washington, you can always refer them to us. We have them in your templates as well, but if they, we'd be happy to give them more information. Okay, the event day coordination. So we're almost there. With your event, you have like a 2-hour countdown. It's going to feel more than that, but T-minus 2 hours before the event, you want to make sure you post any directional signs to help attendees and your volunteers get to where they're going. Make sure that your restrooms are unlocked, that any doors for handicap access are also unlocked, that any of your automatic doors are not shut down for the day. That's something that's occurred in the past. And any other logistical issues. Set up and check to make sure that all your needed presentation equipment is working, so log into all the computers, make sure the computers are working, and that your presenters, if you have them, are able to access everything to get their presentation started. Log into each computer that you're going to be using in your computer lab, and I would pull up the FAFSA and WAFSA page and the survey at the end so that students have those ready to go on their page. They go to the right page. And the FSAID page as well. And then last but not least, unlock your workshop and your presentation room. Some presenters are going to want to get in there early to get set up to be able to make sure that everything works as well. If you have access to Wi-Fi for your presenters, I'd encourage you also to give them early on the Wi-Fi password and whatever abilities you have to connect. An hour before the event, set up your sign-in tables, your survey collection, if you have a little box for survey collection. If you have refreshments for volunteers, set those up. Establish a volunteer area if possible where they can leave their items securely, so a room that's locked so they can put their purses or other bags in. If you have a volunteer lead, this is where you want to see if you can identify, and hopefully earlier on, if any of your volunteers can be interpreters. If they are, then you also want to make sure they're easily to identify to students. So name tags that say I speak, and then whatever language that they are able, whatever bilingual language they speak. Volunteers should arrive 30 minutes before you start, but I encourage 60 minutes. Introduce yourself, have the volunteers sign in, hand out name tags. They're awesome orange buttons, and their event agendas and a map. Make sure volunteers understand the logistics of the event. Make sure they understand that if they can't answer a question, it's okay. They can refer them to someone, to the expert who does have the answer to that question. But we want to make sure that the volunteers understand when to answer a question and when to know that the limitations of being able to answer those questions. Make sure the volunteers know what duties they're assigned to, who's going to be collecting surveys, who's going to be at the registration table, who's going to be greeting your presenters. And then I would give all of your volunteers a real quick 5-minute tutorial on the presentation equipment specifically, because that way if someone comes and asks, hey, I can't get my PowerPoint up, at least they'll be able to help them a little bit. Event day help. So your IT tech support, this is where that person's really critical. You will have assistance also from FedAid at 1-800-4FED-AID until 9 p.m. our time. And then you also have me. So you can always, I would start with the, depending on the time of your event, start with the 4 FedAid to see if they can be able to assist you, but they can help with questions, with problems accessing the site, things like if your student makes up a social security number for their FSA ID. That was one last week, but they decided to make one up because they didn't know it, and then it attached them to a different record, and we had to call in. Don't be afraid to call them. They are there to help, and they are happy to help. And then reporting and wrap-up. So all students are going to, I would track students and family members, because parents are going to be receiving assistance as well, and volunteers. They need to be tracked on sign-in sheets, which we are going to provide. Having a registration desk is critical, so I encourage you to have at least one volunteer at a registration desk, making sure everybody signs in. In addition to checking in, each student participant will complete a survey about their experience. This is a national requirement. So we collect these surveys because it determines on how well we're reaching our target populations. The students are asked to self-report on several different things, including their family's income and level of education. We want to make sure we're meeting our target audiences. We will provide online and paper surveys this year, but we prefer people to do online ones. Some ideas for survey collection include getting 1 or 2 dedicated computers at an event alone just for surveys, so your checkout computers. Someone by the door to direct participants to complete the survey before they're done. Some sites will have them complete their survey. When their survey's done, they get their sticker that says that they applied for financial aid. And then sometimes they'll give out a raffle ticket for a raffle. You can contact schools to see if they're willing to send some college swag for these raffles. So finally, you're going to follow up with your participants, thank your volunteers, and then you're going to send me all your forms. And then we will start planning for our next year's event. It feels like so soon, but March of next year. We'll start connecting with you again about these events. These are all the resources online at the top. You can see us on Twitter and Ready, Set, Grad at Twitter. We have our Facebook pages too. Does anyone have, I'm going to open it up in just a second for questions, but I thank you so much for attending and for being a site lead. We couldn't do this without you, and I really appreciate all your hard work. Thank you so much.